why you should buy gold even though it's just reached an all-time high. Hello future investors and welcome back to another weekly episode. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. It's nearly the bank holiday weekend where in England it's going to be the coronation of King Charles. So I think that could definitely have some potential effects on gold, maybe some opportunistic releases from the Royal Mint, maybe releasing some bullion that they've kept under wraps for a while. Probably I'm expecting a lot more bullion coming out with King Charles featuring a crown. I know recently there has been that come out, but I'm sure they're going to bring out more variants of that. However, on other news, gold prices have just reached an all-time high. Are you ready for it? They have just reached an all-time high in dollars of $2,091. $2,091. Absolutely crazy. However, the prices did pull back only a couple of moments later, all the way back to 2050. However, that's really not that crazy, is it? To pull back that in a couple of minutes. So yeah, an all-time high of $2,091. Wow. So what does that mean for gold going forward, and why are these price increases so dramatically happening in such a short period of time? Well, it's got to be down to a massive economic movement in the United States at the moment. There is a lot of concern around the banks at the moment, with more banks recently coming under fire and actually going for foreclosures. Now, Fed Chairman Jerome Powell said that the US banking system remains strong. However, if you look at other factors, the United States Fed has just increased the reserve rate on the interest rates to 5.25%. So, although we're being told one thing, the mathematical side of the financial statistics say a different thing. Now, if you're in a different part of the world, you're thinking, well, I'm not in the United States. How can this affect my wonderful precious metals and my investment stack? Maybe you're from the United Kingdom. Maybe you're from China. Maybe you're from India, Pakistan, Thailand, Australia, Canada. Wherever you are, if you're not in America, you're probably saying to me right now, well, that doesn't affect me future investments because I'm not in the United States, so surely I don't have to worry about that. Well, I disagree. I think you do. The United States have a huge economical and financial control over the world's financial situation. They're one of the world's leading powers. So when things start going wrong there, it does have a knock-on effect. And usually, the sort of world and Europe does tend to follow things that happen in America first. So yeah, the price of gold rocketing up to an all-time high of $2,091, which equates to 1,659 British pounds, is something to be concerned about. Now, does that mean you should stop buying gold now because the prices are so high? Most people would think that, wouldn't they? I think most people, especially new investors, would go, well, if I'm reading that the prices of precious metals, including silver, are extremely high right now, I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait until the drop and then I'm going to buy some precious metals. However, nobody knows when or if that drop will ever come. And from my own personal experience, having invested quite a bit of my own money over quite a few period of years now, over a diverse portfolio, I've come to the conclusion that it is far better to have time in the market rather than trying to time the market. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, for some of you seasoned stackers, you already understand what I'm saying, but to keep it short and sweet for those new investors, what I'll get at by saying it's better to have time in the market than trying to time the market is essentially by waiting for dips or highs to sell or buy, you could potentially be missing out on opportunities. For example, in my early days of investing in precious metals, I used to wait for the dip. However, I would find that I would check a week later and the prices have rocketed up even more and then they never came back down. So it would have been better for me just to buy the precious metals in that specific moment when I actually thought the prices were high, because at the end of the day, what we know with gold and silver when it comes to tangible precious metals is they're such a safe commodity to invest in. I mean, you just have to look at the fact that they've been around for over 4,000 years. So do you really think that they're not going to continue to be around for that time? Now, maybe you could say, well, there's things like CBDCs coming in, central banking digital currencies, you've got cryptocurrencies, and maybe people are looking at investing their money in other things like the S&P 500. Well, that's all very well. But what you've got to remember is that precious metals are one of the best stores of wealth, and there's a reason why the countries of the world, China, United Kingdom, London, America, they back their own dollar or British pound or yen with gold. I mean, China right now is buying up some of the world's largest gold reserves. I think they actually have the largest holding of gold reserves in the entire world. So you really must believe, you must understand that gold isn't going anywhere because the countries have so much capital invested in precious metals that they financially couldn't let gold go to zero. It just couldn't happen because the countries would not manage, because most fiat currencies are backed by gold reserves of that country. So yeah, although the prices are high, I think they're going to continue rising. I think now is the best time to buy precious metals. Ignore that there is a price of it being high, because at the end of the day, if you're an experienced stacker, you will know that buying gold and silver is for the long-term investment, or even just to hedge against inflation. It's not a short-term thing. And the reason it's not a short-term thing is because of the premiums. You buy online from bullion dealers and you pay a premium over the spot price. Now, it will take quite a long time to recoup that money you've spent on the premiums to even cut even. However, as soon as you're past that point, you're all in profit. And in that meantime of waiting to make some profit, you've hedged against inflation and you've protected and stored your wealth in an asset that isn't going to go up with inflation. Now, if I had £10,000 in the bank and I kept it in that account for 20 years, the buying power of that £10,000 would get me so much less in 20 years than what I can buy right now. However, if I put £10,000 into gold bullion, or even silver bullion in my opinion, I think in 20 years that value of that precious metal will have gone above and beyond the value of what £10,000 was. So technically you'll be in profit, and in that meantime you will have hedged against inflation. And I mean, you have to look at some of the analytics of gold and silver. What are people saying? Forget about the governments. Look at precious metal stackers and new investors. So I did a bit of research, and it turns out that more people are searching for how to buy gold. In fact, there was a 100% search rate increase on how to buy gold. Now, most of us stackers will know it's not common knowledge that you can buy gold and silver bullion. When you talk to your friends or family about gold or silver bullion being tangible, most people, I find, look at you with a sort of bewilderment because they don't expect the average Joe, people who aren't wealthy or millionaires, to be buying gold bullion. It really catches them off guard. They almost look at you with a sense of interest, but almost mischievousness, like you're lying, because it's such an associated thing with wealthy people. However, as time goes on and more people are becoming aware of this fabulous precious metal such as gold and silver, it's becoming slightly more common knowledge, although it's extremely under-knowledged right now about buying gold and silver bullion. It's such a simple process, isn't it? But when you speak to most people who have never invested in tangible gold and silver, they don't have a clue where to start. And I think that stems from the stigma of people not believing that it's for the average Joe and not understanding the benefits. You hear on TV or the news, China's just bought up a huge gold reserve, but the average Joe isn't going to think about why are they doing that? Why are they investing in gold? What's the reason for them doing that? They just see the statistics and the numbers and the images. You need to look into the analytics. Now, one multi-millionaire, a chap called Robert Kiyosaki, I'm actually reading his book right now. It's a brilliant book. It's a financial book, and it is called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and it teaches you about the finances of the world and how to think like the rich and wealthy do. It's about building your asset column and lowering your expense column. Now, I'm not going to go into depth too much in regards to this because I want to leave that for a separate episode, because there is so much valuable content in this book by Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that I think it could be a really beneficial episode for so many precious metals stackers and investors in general. But he's a big believer in gold and silver. You can look up online Robert Kiyosaki exactly, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And he has so many videos on YouTube talking about the precious metal, the yellow gold, how it's one of the best hedges against inflation. And he's been investing in it since the 1970s, before he was really, really wealthy and before he was mainstream. So you can imagine how much money he invested all the way back from the 1970s to how it's looked after his wealth throughout that period of time, while also making a nice little investment. So yeah, that's the current situation with gold right now. I do think it's going to hit crazy prices in the next few years. You've got the war in Ukraine, you've got bank crisis, you've got CBDCs trying to slowly make their way into the way of everyday people's lives. And yeah, financial inflation as well. So with all of these factors, gold is going, bring it on, bring it on. The more this happens, the more I'm going to go up in value. And the more silver is used as an industrial metal, the more that goes, bring it on, because I'm going to go up in value. So I believe, ignore the price of gold right now. I've just made a relatively large purchase of gold, but I'm going to save that for an unboxing video when it arrives. I didn't care about the current price. I just bought it because I believe in the long term, I'm going to completely outweigh that purchase being at a high time right now, because I believe the prices are going to keep rocketing up. So thank you very much for watching this episode. As always, I hope you've enjoyed this video. It's been very, very fun to film. And a huge shout out to the current channel members. You've got the Stack Collector and 365 Days of Silver. Thank you for being future premium investors in the channel. I really appreciate your support. It helps me build this channel and put more back into content for you guys. So thanks for watching as always. And until next time, I'll see you in the very next episode. Bye-bye, guys. To watch another episode on future investments, click the link now.